did this and had technical difficulties and said it couldn't publish it to my page. So hopefully this one is going to do it. I need to delete that reminder. Remind me tomorrow. Hi, everybody. I'm RaeAnne Thayne, and I'm really excited to talk to you tonight about my book. It's right here. Coming Home for Christmas. This is the latest book in my Haven Point series. It's the story of Luke and Elizabeth, who have played quite a role, and I see 9 of you there. I can't see everyone. Hi, Patty and Cindy and Cora and Carrie. Everybody's joining. Thank you so much for joining in. Hi from Michigan, Dana. It's good to see you in Michigan. And hi, Jennifer. Great to see everybody here today. I had technical difficulties and we're having Wi-Fi issues, so I'm hoping this works, and I should have maybe done it on my phone. If this has problems, I'll restart on my phone. So we may end up getting dropped and having to restart. You know what? I know what one of the problems is. I just realized I gotta go turn my furnace off because it interferes with the Wi-Fi. Well, if we have problems, I'll go turn the furnace off. But you know, it's like 6 degrees here right now, so I don't want to turn the furnace off. I've got my little snow earrings because yes, we have snow outside, and like I said, this morning when I woke up, it was 4 degrees. That's how cold it was. Hi to everybody joining in. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so sorry, Cindy, about your Simi Valley. I hope you're okay. Hi, Susan from East Tennessee. Oh my goodness, we've got 39 people joining. Thank you so much. Hi from Akron, Suzanne. Oh my gosh, everybody from Florida, New York. Oh my word, I love this group. I love getting together with you guys and chatting and talking about my crazy week, which it has been. Captain Awesome had an appointment in Salt Lake on Monday, and everything's fine. It was just a follow-up appointment. So that took up my Monday, and then I've got a TV interview Friday, which I'm not thrilled about. So I had to go get the gray out of my hair. So that took up yesterday, and then today's been running around. I got my nails done for the TV interview, and just lots of things going on. So busy, busy life. I hope you guys are all doing okay. I'm so sorry about those of you who are in California. Hope that you are safe and can breathe. We get some bad air here in the wintertime, and it's really hard for me to breathe. With the little bit of asthma that I have, I can imagine how bad that smoke is. We do get it smoky in the summer, but usually not super bad unless we've got a close by fire, which we don't get super often. But anyway, I'm really sorry about everybody dealing with that, but I'm glad you've joined me tonight. Thank you so much. And from South Mississippi and Massachusetts, oh my word, Idaho Falls, hi Luann. I hope you're doing well. I hope everything's going well. So I'm really excited tonight to talk about this book. As all of you know, those of you who are my regular readers, this book has been a long time coming. I first planted the seeds for this book in a book that came out. Oh, look, I happen to have one right here. The large print edition anyway. Snowfall on Haven Point, I first planted the seeds for this book because I happened to mention the hero of this book, which this isn't how it looked in the stores, but this is the large print edition, which for some reason was on my desk. I don't know why, but anyway, maybe I knew I was going to need it. I first talked about a missing woman, and the hero in this one is a sheriff, and he was looking for this missing woman, and then he got injured while he was on the job and and was able to, you know, the heroine came and helped him heal a little bit, and of course they fell in love. And so I didn't know who was this missing woman, what was her story, and then I wrote The Cottages on Silver Beach, which I do not have a copy of here because I wasn't that far intuitive thinking I would need it. But anyway, I wrote The Cottages on Silver Beach. That was, oh, I've got a comment. Oh, okay, we'll get to that just a second. Anyway, I wrote Cottages on Silver Beach about Megan Hamilton, and I needed something that she and the FBI agent could investigate, and it occurred to me, well, I bet that's her brother, and it was his wife who's missing, and so that sort of set all the scenes. But that book came out like a year and a half ago almost, and then I planted a few more seeds in my book, A Soldier's Return, which I do happen to have here, right there. The epilogue of which you can find on my website. And you can read about, you know, if you want to read the whole book, then you'll get a little more insight into Elizabeth Hamilton and her story. But anyway, so writing this book has been really fun, and I'm really excited that so many of you have enjoyed it. It is an emotional read. It has a happy Christmas ending, but it's got some emotional things. And I wanted to, let's see, comment. Cindy Hall said she's about 4 miles from the Reagan Library. Oh my word. That's so scary. You know, when we do have fires in the summer here, they're usually never super close, and my house is not threatened because I'm like way in the middle of a town, so it'd have to come through the whole rest of the town before it got to us, a fire, but still scary. And we had a fire in our community this morning. I was listening to the scanner. I like the scanner app on my phone, and someone's house caught fire, and that's really scary too. So I can't imagine just feeling threatened like that. I know how hard that must be. And so you're all in my thoughts. And Luann, it's super cold there. Yep, I get it. We are super cold here. Fortunately, I think we've only got a few days of this super, super cold, but it's really hard. Hi, Susie. Hi, Pam. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. All right, so I'm going to get to your questions because there were quite a lot of good ones. And look, I have to show you, last time I complained that the questions were too small. So Carrie did them really, really big for me. So thank you. So now I don't even need my glasses. So maybe I won't put them on. I don't know. Maybe I will. I'll have to, but maybe I won't. All right. So we'll just get to it. And anyway, I hope you're all good. And I'm excited. Oh, I wanted to say thank you guys for your incredible support of this book. It hit USA Today. It did really well on Publishers Weekly. It's still showing up on the book scan. And yay for this book, Season of Wonder, which is a reprint of the book that came out last year. This is the story about the veterinarian, Danny and Ruben Morales, who's one of my favorites. Anyway, it came out in mass market, and it is still on Publishers Weekly. It's been on the Publishers Weekly best-selling paperback books for all month long, and I'm amazed that, you know, everybody didn't buy it last year and still wants to get it. So thank you guys so much. You're awesome. I love you all so much. So, all right, let's see. Carrie's dinging me. Let me turn off my notifications. I forgot to do that. I forgot. Sorry. I can still get your text, Carrie, but I just don't want them dinging in the middle. Do not disturb is on. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Cindy, for saying you loved it. Okay, guest appearance for my puppy. I was going to bring her over. Actually, that was on my plans, but she is so distracting for me because she's so adorable. She's actually not really a puppy. She's almost a year, so she's still a puppy, I guess, till she's a year. But she's basically full grown, and she's potty trained and all the difficult things with the puppy. She has a little energy like twice a day, and then the rest of the time she's just this floppy little adorable thing. She's so cute. If you haven't seen pictures, go on my Facebook. I've posted some, and I think there's a couple on Instagram too. She's just adorable. And honestly, I've never seen a dog that just wants to be held all the time. She would just nestle right here on my shoulder if I would let her all day long. She doesn't move. She just stays right there with her head nestled on my shoulder. It's so cute, and she's adorable. And I wanted to bring her, but I thought, well, she'd be really distracting, and she might get wild if she hears me talking the whole time. Most of the time, she'd probably just be sleeping because that's what she does while I'm working. But anyway, she's really cute, and we're super glad to have her. It's been a long time coming. I wanted a dog for a long time, and it's kind of been one of those, we have a lot going on in our life, and my husband is right when he would say, what are we going to do? We travel, you know, Captain Awesome has doctor's appointments. What are we going to do with her? And all that is true, but she's been a great joy in our life, and everybody loves her, and the kids love her, and I love her. And actually, when I left, my husband was holding her, so he likes her too. So, okay, so here we go. And I was thinking maybe for Christmas, when we do like just a Christmas, I don't think we'll have a book group book discussion, although I haven't talked to Carrie about exactly what we're going to do, but maybe I'll just bring her or maybe I'll just do a Facebook Live one night and just randomly bring her on so you can all meet Millie, who is really, really sweet. Okay, so Connie, I have to share this because I thought this was so awesome. Connie says, I was at the doctor's office yesterday and saw a lady reading Coming Home for Christmas. I had to tell her that's a fantastic book. She smiled and said, yes, it is. And RaeAnne is a fantastic author. We chatted about you and your books in the waiting room. And I think I now have a new friend. And I thought that was so awesome. Connie, thank you for telling me that, because I have never seen anybody out in the wild reading my books. I mean, I know I have readers, but I've never seen anybody actually just bumped into somebody reading. I've had friends who've seen people on airplanes and stuff. And I always look when I'm on an airplane to see what people are reading. And it's hard with Kindles now because I don't know what people are reading. But anyway, I think that's so cool that you found somebody who's reading my book. And thank you for talking about me and talking me up. I should tell you that is like the author's best friend are the readers who will talk about an author to their friends, because there's nothing, if you think about the things that you buy, it's usually it's because somebody told you this is a good thing, I like this thing. And so there's nothing better for us as authors than readers will talk to their friends about our books and tell their friends that they like our books. And so thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate that. Okay, Jennifer says, how many books do you have coming out next year and when? So right now I know of 2 plus reprints. There's a few reprints coming out, and I can't off the top of my head remember which books are being republished. But the new books I have coming out in April, well, the end of March, I have Sea Glass Cottage and and these are general questions. Sorry, I was going to do the book specific first. See, I'm such an airhead sometimes. Anyway, I'll finish answering this one. So I have that one, and then I have a Christmas book coming out, which, I have 3 coming out. So Sea Glass Cottage in March. In July, I will have, the title is, Summer at the Lake, which is the last book in Summer at Lake Haven, which is the last book in Haven Point, which is Samantha Fremont's book. Then I will have a Christmas book that's a standalone Christmas book. Right now, it's tentatively called Christmas at Holiday House. My working title was Silver Bells because it's set in a fictional town called Silver Bells, Colorado. But I think they're changing that, and I don't know what the title's going to end up being, but it's coming out in October. So mark your calendars for the end of March. I think I want to say March 17th, 18th, something like that, is Sea Glass Cottage, which is a hardcover, and that's a standalone hardcover. The last book in Haven Point is going to come out at the end of June, probably around June 24th, around in there. And then the Christmas book will be out at the end of September. So a few, and then there's reprints in the midst of that. I don't exactly know the dates on all the reprints and which ones are coming out. But I can look that up, and I'll try to post something about that, the ones I know. I don't always know. Sometimes I'm surprised I get a box in the mail of books and it says, "Hi, Barbara, thanks for joining us at your first book group." That's awesome. So sometimes I'll get a box in the mail and think, why am I getting these books again in the mail? And then realize it's being republished and going out in stores, and I didn't know that it was coming out. So that does happen. I don't always know. I could look it up. There's a place, Harlequin has a place that you can look and see, but they're doing a lot of my books, and so I never quite can keep track of what's going on. So, okay, so now we're going to do the questions about coming home for Christmas, then I'll go back and do the general ones. That was my bad, sorry. But thank you for those questions. They were awesome. So Anne says she loved the happy ending. Susie said, I wish this series could go on forever. I would love to keep visiting everyone. I do too, kind of, but I have to think, I have so many readers who contact me who say, I can't read a series unless all the books are out. I don't like long series because I hate waiting for the final books. And I understand that. And so that's why I don't like to have a series that's too big. And honestly, Haven Point is like 12 books, I think. Is it 11 or 12? I can't even keep track how many there are. But there's a lot of books in Haven Point. And so I feel like it's time to start something new. And I still don't know exactly what my publishing schedule is going to be, if I'm going to do a series or if I'm going to do standalone hardcovers. We're still kind of just trying to discuss moving past. I know 2021, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm still thinking series. I like writing series, so it'll be a small town series, whatever it is. That's the books I love to write. The Silver Bells book right now, I'm planning that as a standalone, but my editor says, well, why don't we make it a series? So we might end up making it a series. I don't know, but I like it as a standalone right now. But okay. All right. So Marty says, she thought the ending was a little too convenient, which it is, but I write happy endings, and so I had to write a happy ending. I had to make it work, and it was hard for me to make it work. This was probably, I would say, this book and Sea Glass Cottage were the 2 hardest books I've ever written, and I don't know if that's just because I've done so many books, and it gets harder the more books that you write, which is counterintuitive. You'd think it would get easier. After 60-something books, you'd think I would figure it all out, but it honestly is harder after every book because I'm trying to make it fresh and original, and it just seems like sometimes it's just pulling teeth to get these people to do what I want. So Coming Home for Christmas was really hard. I knew it was going to be going into it. I was worried about it going into it because I knew it was going to be a hard sell that this woman could be away from her kids for 7 years and come back and make everything okay after the trauma that they'd all been through. And sorry, there's spoilers here, people. If you haven't read the book, there's going to be spoilers in the book club because there's no way I can talk about some of these things without spoilers. I forgot to say that up front. So if you haven't read the book and you want to know from the beginning what's going to go on, you may want to, come back and watch this after you've read the book. But anyway, there was no way I could write that she'd been gone for 7 years and not have there be trauma for the kids, for him, for her. You know, I had to make it really tough. And so it was a hard setup and a hard sell, but I had to make it work because this is what I'd set up in previous books. You know, if I'd set this up from the beginning, I probably would have had her only gone for like 3 years or something. But I had already set up in Snowfall and Haven Point that she'd been gone for a long time. And actually, I should say I took an editorial license because I think in Snowfall she'd been gone for 10 years. And I was like, no, that's too long. I just can't make that work. So I cut it to 7 years and hope that readers will be forgiving that I mentioned in that book that she'd been gone for 10 years. And then the other thing I did was Cottages on Silver Beach came out last year in 2018, summer 2018. I have this book taking place just 4 months later, even though it's 2019. And usually I try to keep my books, you know, contemporary to the time it comes out. So I would, like, I use a calendar. I'll use a December 20, when I'm going to be writing this, just the 2020 Christmas book, I'll use the December 2020 calendar. So I know, okay, the 12th was on a Wednesday, Christmas was on a Tuesday that year or whatever. I usually try to do that. But in this particular case, I couldn't make it a year and a half because he knew she was back. And I couldn't make him just sitting around waiting for her to come back for a year and a half. So I had to compress time. So that's a few editorial things I did in this book, which those of you who read it will know that. So really, this book really would take place in 2018 if I were keeping real life. But I've created my own world. And so I am allowed to compress time in my own world and make it work. So I did. All right. Let's see. So Susan asked a really good question, and this is something I agonized over as I was writing it too. I didn't know how to fix it, and so I just kind of left it. This is another one of those where I didn't know all the details when I wrote Cottages on Silver Beach, and I didn't know exactly how I was going to make everything work, and so it's a plot hole, I'll be honest. So she says, Susan Kenoy says, if Elliot Bailey was smart enough to find Elizabeth, then he must have known what she had gone through during the time she had been missing. Why wouldn't he have given Luke a little hint or something about Elizabeth being in an accident? And so the way I tried to solve that is say, Elliot tried to tell him. I wrote in there somewhere that Elliot had tried to tell him and he didn't want to hear. He didn't want details. He just knew that she had been gone from her family all this time. And so he didn't want to deal with the details. And that's the only way, I mean, because really Elliot would have told him, but I really had it that he just didn't want to know. And so that's the only, and I could see a guy being so upset and so angry that his wife all this time had been living another life, that he was just like, I'm shutting the door on her, you know. And so that's where he was in his mind. That's the only way I could have dealt with it, because really he would have said, well, how do you know that this is who she is, and how do you know what she's been through and everything? So Carolyn says, I'm reading this now. It sounds like it could be a true story. Did you know a family in a similar situation? So I did not know a family in a similar situation, but I'm really fascinated by true crime stuff and missing people. I've talked about that before, that I'm really obsessed with people who go missing. Not obsessed in a, like, stay up all night wondering where these people are, but I'm interested when I hear about people who go missing and they never find them. And I just think, what if they are out there? What if there's some reason that they're out there? And, you know, like in Elizabeth's case, she didn't know that she had this family. She had glimmers of it. For a couple of years, she started having glimmers that she had this family out there. And so I was really fascinated by that idea that somebody could bear that burden, that, like Luke, could bear the burden of everyone thinking he did something to his wife and made her disappear, and he didn't, you know. And so I'm most of the time, unfortunately, when someone disappears and there's a suspect, it's usually that person did something to the person and made him disappear. But in this case, I was like, what if he didn't do anything to her, and he's had to bear that burden of suspicion and everything all his life? And so that's sort of was the idea. And I knew it was going to be a hard book to write and kind of a hard sell. There are a few things I took editorial license with, but we'll just make them be happy with that we did it and it ended up with a happy ending. So Susie says, let's see. She says, I have MS. I act a lot like a TBI because they both involve the brain, traumatic brain injury. And like Elizabeth, I have a hard time finding words that I need to use. So what I am about to ask may not be worded right, but how did you draw inspiration for Elizabeth's TBI? I can't think of the word for investigating, the TBI. I could so relate to searching for words, the walking, the halting speech, getting tired and knowing your limitations, when to use the cane, whether your husband and children would be better off not having to deal with this. She says, sorry if I'm ruining anything for someone who hasn't read the book yet. Thank you for doing such a wonderful job on those details that most people don't realize others have to deal with. And that was, honestly, I really wanted to show authenticity with her. I've researched TBIs for previous books that I've done, and then because I have a son with who had a brain injury before birth, who has cerebral palsy, I know some of the situations that people with brain injuries deal with. You know, there's different. Cerebral palsy is basically a brain injury that happens either prior or right after birth. And in his case, that's what happened. And some people, I know that they have to deal with things afterward. And so I really did want to show authenticity there. And I should say, Susie, here's a little spoiler for you, but Sea Glass Cottage has a heroine who is dealing with an MS diagnosis. So, and she sees that as a limitation for a romantic relationship. But of course, I give her a happy ending too. So there you go, something to look forward to in May. Anyway, let's see. And you are not ruining anything. That's a great question. And honestly, whenever I create a character, I want her to seem as authentic as possible. And so I do research, you know, what would this be like? What are some of the conditions that she would be dealing with? You know, I know people that have had strokes, which is something similar to what she dealt with and can be difficult. And I know that finding language is a hard skill to regain when you've lost that. And so in her case, it was very difficult. In Elizabeth's case, very difficult for her to find the words. And so thank you guys for finding her a heroine that you can relate to, even though I knew it was going to be hard to sell her after having been gone for so long. Okay, let's see. Melissa says she thought it was refreshing that Elizabeth didn't just magically recover from her injuries. She's a special learning needs teacher, and she's worked with people. She thought it was refreshing that she didn't magically recover from her injuries, but was able to live her life with adaptations to compensate for those injuries. And I agree, and I always want to show characters who are dealing with difficult things in their life to show that everybody should be able to find a happy ending, no matter where they are, no matter, you know, if they are dealing with any kind of disability or any kind of struggles, that you can have hard things. I've talked about this before. This is my underlying philosophy for all of my books. You can have hard, difficult things either in your past or in your present, but that doesn't mean you can't have joy in your life and you can't find, you know, happiness, and you can't meet the one person that will, you know, fulfill that need in you for having a companion and all the things. And so really for me, it made Luke more heroic, that even though, you know, that he was able to forgive despite her being gone, and he was able to see that she'd been through this difficult thing, and that, you know, that there were not as many things to forgive as he thought there were along the way. And then both of them, that they were able to rekindle what they had before, despite her having these new limitations in her life. So anyway, all right, let's see. Was it difficult to write the varying reactions to Elizabeth returning? It was, and I actually cried a lot as I was writing this book. I'm sorry, Tammy. I love you, darling. She says she has a hard time reading about MS, since I struggle with that myself. And I have to say, you guys are an inspiration, the friends that I have that have MS. That's one reason I wanted to write that character. And in her case, she has in my heroine in Sea Glass Cottage, she has a very mild right now. It's kind of in remission. She's been able to deal with it. Doesn't mean it will always be that way. And so that's why she's struggling with this romantic relationship. I'm not going to give all that away, but that's kind of the setup there. But anyway, I really want to show that Melissa asked, how did I get the idea for Elizabeth to get in an accident? So I had to think, why would she be gone? Why would she not come back? What could have happened? And I went through 100 different scenarios as I was trying to plot this book. That she was in witness protection, you know, that she was on the run from something in her past, all these different things, and none of those felt right to me. And I just liked the idea that she had had an accident, and that was the main reason she didn't come back. I could have taken the book in 100 different directions, but that's the one that felt right to me. And so, you know, when I wrote like A Soldier's Return, I showed her in that one. I introduced her in that one as a character who's just a secondary character. And basically because I wanted my readers who read all my books to have that little Easter egg that, hey, there's a story here, and maybe I'll get to find out the story later. And you do. And I knew that going into writing this one, that's who she was, and that's what she was dealing with, that she lived on the second floor apartment because she wanted, even though they wanted to give her the first floor, she insisted on a higher apartment so that she would get that exercise of going up and down the stairs. And the other characters who live at Brambleberry House were all protective of her. I wanted to show all that in this one as part of her journey. And so that was a fun little Easter egg. Not really fun. It's emotional Easter egg for those of you who read all my books. And I so appreciate you who do that. All right, let's see. And I'm going to sneeze, sorry. So I didn't answer. Was it difficult to write the varying reactions to Elizabeth returning? I cried a lot in this book. I cried in scenes with Elizabeth and Megan. I cried a lot. Every time I would edit those scenes about her, not a spoiler, but Megan gives her this priceless gift to kind of help her recapture some of the memories and things she missed with her children over the years. And I cried a lot because I thought if I had been gone from my kids for those 7 years, what a heartache that would be for me in my heart, that the fact that I would, didn't see all these different milestones for them. And so I cried for Elizabeth and I cried for Megan, who kind of came to terms with it, even though she was so angry through a lot of the book. And then she kind of understood what had been going on. And so it showed sort of a reconciliation between the two of them. I cried when, Luke found out about what had happened to Elizabeth. I cried writing that scene. I cried when she tried to explain things to the kids and they were kind of angry with her. At least the older daughter was angry with her. And so anyway, I cry. I've told you I cry at every book. There's this particular scene when I cry, and sometimes there's several scenes, and this was one that I cried a lot. But then I loved the happy ending, and I just got chills every time I read the happy ending. So I'm a dork. That's what I do with my books. All right, let's see. Danielle says, why didn't Elizabeth stop using Sonia Davis's name after her memory came back? So she was using a different name. For those of you who maybe haven't read the book, sorry, spoiler here. She was using a different name because that's the name she thought she was when she came back for a lot of reasons. She thought she was someone else. And the reason I had her keep that name is because she had an identity. She had a support system as Sonia Davis. And she really didn't feel like she was entitled to Elizabeth, and if she had, then he would have been able to find her earlier, and I didn't want him to be able to find her earlier. So I decided that I would keep her as Sonia. She kept that name. She didn't want to disturb, she had reasons for not coming back. She didn't want her husband to have to deal with her now in this state, first of all, and then she knew he would hate her, and she felt so guilty about the reasons that she left that was one of the reasons that she stayed away, or those were all the reasons that she stayed away, because she was, felt horrible about leaving in the first place, and the reasons that she left in the first place. So that's the reason I had her keep an assumed name. Okay, so Michelle says, I love that you paint your characters in a very realistic light, like Luke and Elizabeth, where they have to overcome so much to find their HEA or HFN, which means happily ever after or happy for now. That's HFN. Is it a struggle with some stories to find that balance to give them their happy ending? It is always a struggle for me to find that balance, because, if in the real life, some of these things, you just can't get over them, and I imagine in many situations, a husband and wife, that they couldn't get over that. All the things, the pain that had been carried for 7 years on everyone's side, on the kid's side, on Luke's side, on Elizabeth's side. But I don't write those kind of books. I write the kind of books where they can get over their pain and they can forgive each other and they can have a happy ever after. And I will always write those kind of books because I'm an optimist, and that's the kind of stories I love. And I just don't think I could write a book where they say at the end, goodbye, I'm moving on my way. It's just too much for me. So excuse me, sorry, I need a drink here. It is hard, and I have to, suspend my own disbelief sometimes and say, okay, I know that this was a situation that most people would say, forget it, let's have counseling for the kids and go our separate ways. But I have to set it up enough that they have this deep and lasting love, and they were perfect for each other from the beginning, and all these different reasons why they needed to be together, and he needed to be able to forgive her, and she needed to be able to forgive herself, which was more of the issue in this particular book. So yes, it is difficult. Marjorie said, I love the way you illustrated how Elizabeth showed the strength in trying to get her life back. Facing Haven Point family and those she knew before she left were such hurdles. Did the words come naturally, or were they a struggle? Again, it's always hard. this writing business is not an easy one, unfortunately. I wish it were easier now, but it is not an easy thing. But again, it's so rewarding to be able to have that happy ending. And when I read it myself, you know, in the editing process, I say, okay, you know, there are things I wish I'd done differently, but overall, I think I did it. I was true to these characters and gave them the kind of story that they deserve. And that's sort of the my own barometer of whether I've done a good job with the stories or not. So let's see. Any other questions? If there's any other questions about coming home for Christmas, I'm happy to answer those. If not, I'll go to the general questions. So you can post those if you have questions. Feel free to post in the comments, and Carrie will forward those to me, and I'll try to read them. Oh, thank you guys so much for your lovely comments. I so appreciate that, you guys. Honestly, it's so nice to hear. And I was so afraid about this book coming out. I don't have to tell you. I mean, not afraid, but I had mixed feelings about it hitting bookstores, because I was, like I said, it was such a hard book to write. But it seems like to me, all the books that are so, and I didn't do it. I didn't do the job that I wanted to do with the book. I'll be honest about that too. There were things I wish I'd done differently as I was writing it, but I got to the point where I was late on the deadline. I had to turn it in. And so I just stressed so much about my books, and I wanted to be perfect, and I'm a perfectionist, but I have to let that go because it's never exactly the way I want it to be. So I was worried about it. I was worried about the reader reception, and everyone's been so great. The reviews are great, and thank you guys so much for your lovely words. It made me feel wonderful. Okay. So let's see, we read that question. Oh, I answered about how many books I have. So Beth says, when do you write? So I write pretty much all day when my kids are at school. So my youngest is a junior in high school, so I don't worry about him anymore, but I still have my son who has disabilities. So it's hard for me to write when he's there. He's very needy, and you know, I have to take care of him if I'm with him. So when he's gone to his program that she now goes to, an adult day program, then I come over and write. And I have an office that's right by my house. So I'm lucky enough that I can just walk over and walk through the backyard and bring Millie with me. She comes with me to work and lays on the floor in front of the fireplace and hogs all the heat from the fire. So I basically write, unless, like this week, like I said, has been frenetic with appointments, unfortunately. So Monday I had to get something to my editor. She needed it Tuesday, the proposal for the next book that's coming out. Well, not the one I'm writing right now, which is it's Samantha Fremont's book is a book I'm writing right now. But the book that's coming out next December, which is the Silver Bells one, I had to get the proposal because they're talking about a cover for that one. So, sorry, daughter's asking questions. I'm sorry. I better answer this. She's asking who's eating dinner. I think she's asking how much she can eat. Dad and I have not eaten. My husband has a meeting on Wednesday nights, so is watching the Captain Awesome until now. My daughter's home, so she can watch. But anyway, sorry for that distraction. Family life getting in the way. All right, let's see. What was I saying? I can't remember. Let's see. Okay, when I write. That's when I write. Oh, I was going to say this week has been full of distractions. So I came over Monday night to finish that. I worked until about 11 to get that done for her so they could talk about the I had a plot group in October with Susan Mallory and Jill Shalvis, and we plotted the book. So I knew what was going to happen. I just hadn't had time to sit down and write it because the proposal is not due until I think December 1st or something. So I was worrying. I'm on deadline for Samantha's book, so I was working on that one. But my editor was like, well, it'd be really helpful if I had this. So I thought I better get it done. So I went over and worked till 11, came over here and worked till 11. And then I was too tired. I went home, got up at 5 because I was stressing about it. I was almost done, but I had a little bit left. So I wrote early in the morning to get it done and sent to her. So that's the week, though. Writing has been bad. I haven't done a lot. If I could come over at night, if I'm not too tired, I find I can do a ton, but I'm usually tired at night. And I also like to hang out with my husband when I rarely can see him. And so I do that a lot. And at night, watch TV or whatever. And I saw some comments about Millie. She would be good company. She is good company already. And the good thing about her is that she likes to take a walk. If I take one walk with her around the block, then she'll sleep all day. And so for me, it's been good. I've been getting out and I've been walking, which I need mentally and physically. And so it's been really nice. Although I didn't want to go today, it was 4 degrees, like I said. So I waited till this afternoon when it was like 30 degrees and then walked her then, but still cold. All right. So Lynette wants to know, oh, sorry, one more. I'll answer this one. I'm jumping around. I don't mean to. Bonnie says, I'm looking forward to reading this book. When writing a story, do you know how the story is going to end before you even start writing? I usually do. I plot pretty extensively. I try to get every book plotted well in advance. And so then when I start writing it, I already have a synopsis, usually like 8 to 10 pages. This is just a broad overview of what's going to happen in the book. But then I sit down and go scene by scene so I know what's going to happen. I know whose point of view it's going to be. I know what the point of that scene is going to be. And then I have that all, I write those all on notes. And in my case, I use an app, but I write them all on note cards, on a note card app where each scene is a note card. And each character's point of view is a different color so that I know I'm doing enough in each character's point of view. And then I will rearrange those. I can drag and drop those scenes. If I don't like where one is, I can move it somewhere else. But I spend a long time plotting, pre-plotting so that I know. So like, but I don't know like books in advance. Some people can, have 5 or 6 books plotted in advance, and I'm not like that. I usually know 1 or 2 books in advance. Sometimes I think it'd be much better if I knew what was going to happen, like 5 books in advance, especially when you're writing a series. If I'd known I was going to write Luke and Elizabeth's book, I could have set that up better in the beginning, but I was limited by what I'd already set up, and I had to make their book fit. And sometimes that happens. Like I'm writing Samantha Fremont's book right now, and there are certain things I have to take into account that, her best friend got married, that she's kind of a man hungry, she was kind of giddy, young, she was one of the younger ones in the series, and so I had to write her book, her character that way, and so now, when I sat down to write her book, then I plotted out, this is what needs to happen to her for her to have her happy ending. And so I know that when I sit down to write, I don't always know several books in advance, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm rambling. But anyway, all right. So Lana Kinder, Lana, I don't know, I think it's Lana. She wants to know if I have a new series coming out in the future. And again, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing there. I kind of have a feeling that my Christmas books moving forward might be part of a series, but I can tell you they're going to be trade paperbacks. That's not necessarily my preference, but they will come out in mass market a year later, and so will my hardcovers. So like the Cliff House, which I don't have a copy of up here. I thought I did, and I don't have a copy. The Cliff House will also come out in mass market. That's one of the reprints I'll have. That will come out in mass market in, I think, February. So those of you who didn't read the hardcover, didn't want to, didn't have the money for the hardcover, or prefer to read mass market, that you can read it that way next year in February, I think. And same with all of my books that are coming out in the bigger format. Like this particular book is a trade paperback, and oh, there's a copy of it. So if you've seen it in the store, this is what it looks like, a bigger trade paperback. And just to show you, you all know the difference, and I think I've gone through this numerous times, but this is a trade paperback and this is a mass market. And so these are a little less expensive usually in the stores because it's on not as expensive paper, it's not as big, the print is not quite as big, and so my publisher can print those more cheaply than they can print these, and so these are usually higher priced. So all my books moving forward, the new ones will be this way, I'm afraid. After Samantha Fremont's is a mass market, for the first printing is a mass market, but I think moving forward they'll either be hardcovers or trade. I don't know for sure, but that's what I've heard. And Marjorie says, Susan was with me and Jill. Yes, and we had a wonderful time. And Susan is so good at plotting. I have to tell you, she's amazing at plotting. She's a genius. So if you ever see her, tell her you've heard that she's a genius at plotting. She can cut right through a character's problem and get right to what you need to do to solve that problem. She's so good. Okay. And Lynette wants to know, have you ever considered self-publishing? So many authors do these days. So I have not, because Harlequin does such a great job getting my books out in bookstores. I have a really big print readership, which is kind of unique this day and age when many people are reading digitally, especially romance. But in my particular case, readers seem to like my printed books better than the digital books. I don't know what you like. Post which your favorite is, if you read on Kindle or if you like to buy a book in a bookstore. But my particular readership, I sell a lot more books in print, and so Harlequin, I couldn't do that on my own, self-publishing wise. It costs too much to print a book when you're self-published and get it, and I don't have the distribution network and all that. So I don't imagine that I will ever exclusively self-publish. I do have some books that are self-published. I have the rights back to my Bantam books that I did my first early in my career, and so I've republished those, and you can find those on just exclusively digitally. You can't find those anywhere in stores unless you buy used bookstores, and I think they charge like exorbitant amounts for them at used bookstores. So I've got 4 that I've published, and then I have collections of short stories. If I used to write short stories for Woman's World magazine, and so I've put those all in short story collections that are just little. They were like 1,000, 1,500 words, and so I've put like 5. I might have changed them all. I can't remember if I only put them all in one anthology, but it used to be I had them up as like 5 books for 5 short stories for 99 cents or something like that. But anyway, who knows what I'm going to do. I want to do a novella for Samantha Fremont's book, and I don't know from Harlequin yet if they want it or if I will be doing that myself. Samantha's book, she's making a wedding dress for a character that I have not written that character's story about her romance. She's getting married, and I haven't written who she is or who her hero is or anything like that. And so I thought, well, maybe I should write a novella, digital only novella. So Harlequin may take it and publish it somehow on their, it would be digital only because I'm not writing it yet. I haven't written it yet, and I need it to come out before the book comes out in July. So there's no way Harlequin could print it in that amount of time, but they could put it up digitally if that makes sense. So I will let you know when if I do it, if I have time. My schedule's a little packed writing wise, but if I have time, I will write that story. And if Harlequin doesn't want it, then I will do that myself and put it up digitally. So anyway, and there are a lot of advantages to doing things on your own. You get a little more control over like the covers and the editorial content and things like that. For me, where I started traditionally published, and have a great relationship with my publisher who does a really good job of getting my books out there, I don't think it's in my best interest to go the self-publishing route. I mean, yes, you get more money per book. That's the big advantage, but you don't sell as many books, and so it's a you weigh which is better. So in my case, I really love my relationship with Harlequin and with my publisher, and so I'm very happy there. All right. Brenda said, let's see, I kind of answered that one, so I'm going to skip that question about a new series. Let's see, Melissa Kulikowski says, how about writing a romance book where one character has a disability since she was born, trying to deal with her disability and finding love too? And I have written those books about people with disabilities. I've done a character in, I did an Intimate Moments a long time ago about a woman who was born with a speech impediment, and it's very similar to Elizabeth's case in this book. She had a hard time with words and things, but had that from birth. So everyone thought she was stupid. And actually, Katrina Bailey had epilepsy as a child and always felt like she was stupid. And so that was kind of part of her issue. But there are more I could write about, and that's a good idea. Sometimes I have to set those characters up, and I don't always, like, especially if I'm doing a series, I don't always think about that when I'm introducing everybody in the series, but it's a good thing for me to remember. And as I'm moving forward, if I do end up making Silver Bells a series, I will definitely think about including more people with disabilities. I do a lot of children with disabilities and secondary characters with disabilities and main characters who have acquired issues, with disease and things like that. But that's a good point that I need to maybe do people who were born that way. All right. Kathy wants to know, what computer programs and transcribing tools do you use for writing? That's a good question. No one's asked me that before, I don't think. So I don't like Word particularly much, but everybody in the industry uses Word. I don't like to write in Word. I organize and I edit in Word, but so I use very small freeware program. I'm on a Mac. I've been on a Mac forever, and it's called Bean. It's like nobody's ever heard of it when I say this is what I use. What I like about it is that I can go totally full screen with just text, and there's nothing else on there. Even words full screen, you can see a border across it. And I get so distracted when there's other things on there. And in this particular case, it's just a full screen. I can blow the text up really big so that I can see it, and I don't have to, all it is just text. And I like the words that way. And it seems to work really well for me. So then I move that into Word, and I organize in Word. I have tried other different things. There's a one that a lot of people use that just escaped me what it was called. I'm going to look over and see if I can see the name of it. Oh, Scrivener. And I have it, Scrivener, I don't know how to say it, but I have it, and I've tried it like numerous times, and it never quite works out for me. It's kind of an writing organization thing. So let's see, what else do I use? I like the few things I like in Word. I can no longer do. There was an option for a notebook view in the old Mac version of Word. That's how I would organize all my books. It's like notes. I think OneNote, I think is what it's called in MS OneNote. And you can have like a page for the hero and a page for the heroine, and a page that's just different names that you've used in the book, and they're all tabbed on the side, so you can just click on each book. It's like having a notebook open on your screen all the time. So, but that's not really supported anymore. So I'm increasingly just using the Notes app in Word to do all those things, or in not Word, just the Notes app on my Mac. So I can see it on my phone, I can see it on my iPad, I can see it on everything, just to keep all those names straight and to write different scenes and motivations and things like that. And then I do dictate sometimes, and I use, I used to have, well, I still have. For my last book, I used my PC a lot for dictation, because a PC does a lot better than a Mac on Dragon, which is what I use. But it got really bulky to move all the files from the PC to the Mac, where I like to edit and write and everything. And so I've been just dictating into my rough drafts. I only do that for rough drafts. I dictate sometimes. It doesn't always work, but if I'm in the mood, I'll dictate just to do something different. If my hands get tired or whatever, I'll dictate into Dragon, and into the Bean, again, is a really good one to dictate because it's just a basic word processing software. The other thing I find extremely valuable is, and I think I've talked about this in my book group before, so sorry if you have to hear it again. I use my iPad for lots of things. I always have that open next to me, and it is one of the big app I love is, I'm gonna find it, sorry. What I like about this is that I can have like the dictionary app. I always have that close by with thesaurus. And the dictionary, and then index card is the one I use because I've showed this before. I can show it without that. It's just basically like a cork board where all the scenes are on there. So you can see that, and I can move these around as needed. And so I always have this open next to me so I can see what scene's coming next. Who am I writing? What scene is next? What the color pink is? Sorry, there's a glare there. Let's see if I can move it. No, you can't see it. There's too much. Oh, there we go. Kind of. Anyway, you can see there's pink and blue scenes, and in this case, I'm only doing two people's point of view, the hero and the heroine, and so pink is the heroine and blue is the hero. So I can always tell whose point of view I'm in really quickly at a glance. So that's one I find really valuable. What else do I use? That's basically it. Just the only thing I really need is a word processing software that works, and I do like I said, I do sometimes use dictation because sometimes I get tired of typing, and I have like a Bluetooth microphone that I use for that if I am dictating, and then I can just kind of walk around the room or sit in a different position or whatever and dictate. And I can only do that on the rough draft. I can't edit. I have to be hands-on for editing. And that's all. Oh, one thing I was going to share. Lately I've started, I don't know if you guys care about details, but I've started using my Bluetooth. I use a laptop. I have a MacBook 12. That's what this is, and that's why the camera is so lousy, because the MacBook 12s have lousy cameras. But I've started just using a Bluetooth keyboard so that I can have it raised when I write. So you can't see it right now. Well, I'll move it around so you can see it. Just a minute. See my messy office. So it's raised on a little table. Usually the laptop is sitting right there, and I can keep the keyboard down here, and that way it's better for my neck, and I like it. to do that. And so then I have a trackpad too, a Bluetooth trackpad. So I'm using my laptop basically as a monitor, but and that's how it goes. Oh, looking at all your comments that I missed. Sorry. Marjorie wants to know if the dictation goes straight to your screen. Yes, it does go straight to the screen. And that's one reason I like to do it on my PC or on my Mac rather than the PC. And it does that on the PC, but on the Mac, where I'm using that app where the letters are big and there's nothing else on there, it's just the words showing up there. It's just not as good on the Mac as the PC. I can dictate, with no errors on the PC. I could dictate for like 10 or 15 minutes with no errors at all. And it learns things on the PC. Dragon is much better, more intuitive on the PC. It's one of those things, one of those particular apps that is so much better on the PC that it was worth it for me to buy a cheap $300 PC with Windows than it was to try and fight with it on my Mac. But in this particular book, for some reason, I'm just sticking with my Mac. I just like to mix it up, make it different, do this all the time, and I like to do things differently. Who knows? Maybe I'll go back to using my PC. One thing the Dragon does really well on the PC, which I don't use as much as I would like to, but you can transcribe on like an app on my phone. I can record something on a digital file on my phone. Like if I'm just somewhere, I can dictate a scene into my phone in a recording app, or on my I have a digital tape recorder, or even my watch has dictation on it. I can dictate into that. And then the PC does really well with transcribing a file that you send it in Dragon, whereas the Mac, that can't handle it at all. And another thing I was going to tell you is, here's a little tip for those of you who might be writers. I really love the Rev app. So we tape record our plot groups. So I have Jill and in this particular case, Jill and Susan on the tape recording, and I do it in an app called Rev, R-E-V, and then you can send that away. And someone, a live person, will dictate that. And that particular case, it did cost me about $90, I think, for them to transcribe that whole, I think it's $1 a minute or something like that, to transcribe that whole thing. But it was so much better than me having to sit and listen to the tape and type everything that they said. And now I have a record that's really perfect that says different speakers and everything. So for $1 a minute. So if you are a writer and you'd like to try Rev, that's an awesome opportunity. It does cost a little bit of money, but for what you get out of it, it's definitely worth it. And it was perfect dictation. They pretty much got everything right. So, all right, let's see. That was a great question. Thank you. Sorry if I bored everyone with my, I get a little geeky. My husband tells me I'm a geek because I do love apps and I do love technology. I could sing the song from Napoleon Dynamite about technology. But I've always been a Mac person since I bought my first computer. I've always been a Mac person and love everything in that universe. So I don't know a lot about PCs. I'm sure there's a million different programs you could use on a PC, but I don't know very much. I had a very hard time. I don't know how to turn on a Windows machine anymore. I just sit there and go, I don't know what to do here. How do I turn this on? I actually Google on my Mac how to turn on the PC when I bought it because I didn't know how to start Windows. That's how stupid I am. All right, let's see. Martha wants to know how long I've been writing and what prompted me to write. So I started when I was on maternity leave with our daughter, who's now 29, and I basically because I wanted a job I could do at home with my kids. I'd always dreamed about writing a romance novel. I was a journalist. I loved words because I used to read romance novels all the time, constantly at the library reading books. And my sister can tell me, Carrie's my sister. I was always reading. I'd love to read. And so I always wanted to be a writer, but I went into journalism instead of fiction writing. I didn't ever have a fiction class when I started writing a romance novel. I've learned a lot since then. I've read a lot of books. I've gone to a lot of workshops and things like that. But when I started, I didn't know the first thing about writing fiction. But I just fell in love with the opportunities, and I loved creating my own world and my own characters. It was so much fun. And then I tried for like 5 years to be published. It took me 5 years to sell my first book. But when I did, I sold pretty quickly, and then Bantam kept wanting to buy them, and then I sold to Silhouette as well, and been doing it ever since. So my first book came out in '96, and I'm working on, I think, 64, but I've lost track somewhere. I keep it on a file, how many I've written, but it doesn't ever seem right. I'm not sure I'm updating it the way I should. So I think it's like 64, but something like that. Okay. This is a great question. Donna wants to know, why don't authors write stories about Thanksgiving? I know it's close to Christmas, but I would love one about families and that holiday. So I've written a lot of Thanksgiving scenes, but they're in Christmas books. The problem is, people don't really buy a book based on Thanksgiving, but they will buy a book based on Christmas. I love Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite holidays. And so I usually start my Christmas books around Thanksgiving so that I'm including that. But that's a good question, and I don't really have a great answer for that. It's probably because it's not as emotional as Christmas books can be. There's so many. The holidays are so hard and so wonderful at the same time for a lot of people, and so there's a lot of story ideas there. Karen asks today, do you know your book events for 2020? So the only one I know for sure is that I will be doing the Utah Readers Luncheon again in October of next year, and I believe our guest is going to be Tessa Dare. I don't know if that's been announced. Might be jumping the gun on announcing that. I'm going to be doing that one for sure. I will be doing RWA probably. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be doing RWA. I am doing Lori Foster's event, RAGT, that is in May, I think. Oh no, early June. So it's in Ohio, I think. So you can Google RAGT book event or whatever, Lori Foster, RAGT. It's called Readers and Authors Get Together, I think. I'm doing that for sure. And those are the only ones I know right now. That may change, but for now, that's all I know. And Leslie, thank you for saying my office is cozy. It is cozy. You can't even see, I've got a little fire going right there. I should push that down right now so you can see the fire. I don't have any heat coming out of it because if there's heat, then it gets way too hot in here and I'm wearing a sweater and I don't want to sweat. But it is really cozy. And I do write in here. Most of the time, there's another room in this office that I write in more often. I don't know why. I created this room to be the room that I write in, but I don't find it as creative. I have a hard time. I think it's because the desk, as much as I love this beautiful table that I'm sitting at right now, it's not super comfortable, and the chair in here is not super comfortable. I have a really super comfortable one in the other room, and I use a card table to write on. So I have this beautiful, elegant French provincial desk, which I'll try to show you if I can flip my laptop around. As you can see, it is a lovely French provincial desk that I bought off the classifieds for like $50. But I think because it's so curved there, it's not really comfortable for my legs. And then the chair is not super comfortable. So comfort is everything when I'm sitting for hours at a time. And so I'd much rather sit where I'm comfortable. So yes, thank you though. I do like this room. It is really cute and cozy. And I haven't put the tree up yet, even though because I'm not writing a Christmas book yet. I will be doing that as soon as I finish the one I'm working on, but that's going to be probably another 3 weeks before I get that one done, Samantha's book. All right, we're almost out of time, really almost out of time. Boy, time went fast tonight. Thank you guys for coming. Let's see. How long does it take you to complete a book? That's a great question, and it's usually about 4 months. It depends on how long the book is. It depends on how detailed the plot is. It depends on how much work I've done leading up to it. And then it really depends on when my deadline is. So like in this particular book, I finished a book in August. That was Sea Glass Cottage, and I didn't finish it till like the middle of August. And then I had a bunch of other stuff I had to do before I could start on this one, like proposals and different things work-wise I had to get done first before I could start this one. So I started Samantha Fremont's book in probably September, a little bit in August. I did a little in August, but September. And so that's 2 months ago, and I have to be done by the week before Thanksgiving. So that's less than 3 months. So I'm writing like the wind on that one, trying to anyway, when I don't have a week of distractions like this week. All right, one more question. Let's find a good one for the last one. They're all good. Thank you for your wonderful questions, but where's one that I could end on? These are all great about what side dishes I make for Thanksgiving, which is none. I'm not a great cook. I mean, I'll bring whatever people tell me to bring, but I'm not awesome. Let's see. She said she's really been liking the covers of my books lately. Did I change artists for your covers? So I did. Harlequin changed. Well, Yes, kind of. They have different people working on my books all the time, and I think it's been different people. I used to have the same person doing all of them, and I loved the ones that he was the art director. He wasn't the artist. He was the art director, and I think I have a new art director lately. I don't know a lot about all that stuff that goes on. They don't always tell me someone else is going to be directing this book. I don't know till after the fact that it was someone different. Like I went to the offices last October and I met all these people who'd done covers for my books, and I thought it was this one person all along, and then found out it was all these other people. So I'm kind of clueless about that side of things, but they're wonderful. I love all the covers that I've had, and I agree. They've been really, really beautiful lately. I particularly love this one, the new one, especially the trade one that's so shiny and pretty. Isn't that pretty? All right, so I'm going to end with that. Thank you guys for coming. Oh, one more question. CJ wanted to know what I like to do when I'm not writing or spending time with Captain Awesome. I like to read. I'm like you guys. That's kind of my happy thing. I like to lay in bed and read. I like to sit on the couch and read. I like to sit in the car and read wherever I can. I play, games on my phone like other people. I like social media. I like finding out what my friends are doing. I like to walk with Millie now, but even before I had Millie, I always loved to walk. Now I just have an excuse to get out a little more than I did before. But anyway, thanks for coming. I don't exactly know what we're doing next month or December, but this has been great fun, and I hope you guys have a great evening and stay safe, those in California. Thank you guys for coming. Bye-bye.